My name is Dr. Pajon Jones. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm certified in perinatal mental health. I'm a registered yoga instructor, and I have my PhD in social work. I primarily see perinatal clients. And so October is Hoodoo Heritage Month, and I am a practitioner and a researcher. And so I work with perinatal clients, but also in my other professional life, I am an assistant professor and I am researching perinatal mental health. A big part of maternal health in general are Granny Midwives. And I was thinking about what could I do to talk about Hoodoo Heritage Month. And with that, of course, I wanted to lean on my research, something that I'm interested in, but something that I feel like is timely, like an issue that has been going on for like hundreds of years at this point.
Right.
And so I just feel really grateful that I have a lot of birth workers in my community. So I think my work is like birth work adjacent as a mental health provider. So I definitely like to connect with providers who are more so like working with a birthing person as they're going through the process of birth. So that is why I reached out to you. I'm interested in first hearing a little bit about you. Of course, I know who you are, but just like introducing yourself. And also I'm wondering what got you into the birth workspace.
Okay, so my name is Aurelis Jones.
Hmm.
I am currently a doula, or birth assistant, and now a student midwife. I go to school here in Gainesville, Florida, but I'm originally from Orlando. I am a certified massage therapist. I do all things in between, but as far as birth
Hmm.
work related, those are my
Hmm.
titles currently. I have been
Yeah.
a doula for about 5 years and a birth assistant for 3 years.
Hmm.
So I have assisted in home births and also at a birth center. I also do offer free doula services to teen moms to the program that I used to go to myself in Kissimmee, Florida. So I
Hmm.
just, arrange with one of the teachers there, one of my old teachers, and we get together and, whoever is willing, and open to the services, then I'm definitely there for their hospital births and giving them
Hmm.
an education and whatnot. So as far as like what got me into it, honestly, I had my daughter really young. I had her at 16, but I knew before that my passion was pregnant women and babies. It I
I feel
it
like it's
just
something that calls you,
it
honestly.
just calls, and I'm so
Hmm.
grateful. I'm so grateful that it called me at such a young age. I feel like it was inevitable at any age. I would have, heard the message if that's what I was supposed to
Hmm.
do. But it started really young. I was like 13, 14 years old. Once I found out I was pregnant, I was like, one, I'm keeping my baby, and two, the whole experience in itself, it just solidified what I was already feeling. It did take me a minute to grasp motherhood and, get on my feet and all that so that I could be able to finally work towards my passion. So I'm so
Hmm.
excited.
I feel like that's like what I think about too when people ask me, like, why did you become a therapist? Or like, why do you specialize in perinatal mental health? And it's just like, I just knew I was supposed to do that.
Yeah,
It's really hard to say, like, well, these are the steps that happen. Of course, I have like a general idea, but it's just like, I just feel like this is what I was supposed to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just instilled. Like there's no
Hmm.
explanation. The knowledge is just there and the passion is just
Hmm.
there. So,
I was thinking about like when we were going to have this conversation about my earliest interest specifically in like birth work. And I don't know if you ever watched the show, probably, but like A Birth Story on TLC.
yes.
I used to be like up like early in the morning because it used to come on like before school, and I'd be watching that before school. And it's like, why
Yes.
am I as a child so fascinated by this? But I used to
That
just love
was
that
literally
show.
me. I was rushing home to watch. There was another one called A New York Minute or A Baby in a Minute, something like that.
Yeah, on it
There
was on TLC
was
too.
yes, they were all on
Hmm.
TLC. How did I even come
One
across
Born
that?
Every
I don't even
Minute. Is it that one?
yes,
Yes.
one born every
Hmm.
minute.
Hmm.
It was so fascinating to me. And then yeah, birth story, and then there was a third one.
Hmm.
But that was me as a teenager, just so fascinated. So that's kind of where I remembered the start point of like,
Hmm.
okay, I really like this. Why do I really like this,
Yeah. And I think also like in college, I remember watching The Business of Being Born as well. And I think that's when I started to get a little bit more thinking about like I guess like the political
Yeah,
and like oppressive aspect of birth, of like thinking
yeah,
about it, like you were saying earlier before we started recording about birth as like not the natural process that we all know that it is,
yeah,
what all of us like in the birth work space, but more so like how can we meet the bottom line? And I think that kind of piqued my interest too. And I don't have children yet. Hopefully, I'll have children one day. I always think about what is like my birth plan. And I
sure.
remember when we were in Philly, I was like, I want to have a water birth, but I think it's illegal to have a water birth in Philadelphia. And it's like you have to go to Delaware if you want to have a water birth, that kind of thing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like you have to, you can labor in the tub, but then you have to get up and you have to like
oh
have your baby
wow.
outside of the water. And I'm
Okay.
like, that's very disruptive. Like, this is
Yeah.
me, like, not even knowing, but like in my 20, 21-year-old brain, it's like, if I'm in the middle of labor, as soon as the baby starts coming out, I have to get up and move because I can't
Right.
give
By
birth.
law,
Yeah, like because they're legally mandating the way that you can birth a baby, you're like your natural human bodily response, which is, yeah,
doesn't make any sense. I love that
yeah.
documentary. I literally
Hmm.
recommend every
Hmm.
woman to watch it. It's so detailed in the way, like you said, the political side and the business side of it's
Hmm.
just like clockwork, in and out. They want you in and
Mm.
out. So
Yeah. 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 And so I don't know if you want to get too deep into that part of it, because I know we're talking more so about like the history, but I think that'll like naturally come up anyway.
yeah, it'll come back around because yeah,
Yeah.
the way things were done back in the day and how we're
Hmm.
here today is definitely all of that.
I wanted to start off first giving like an overview for those who are unaware about what Hoodoo is. And so when I was thinking of doing something for Hoodoo Heritage Month, I was kind of like apprehensive at first, even though it's something that I'm interested in. I think like I'm from the South, like both of my families are from the South. So my mom's side of the family is from like rural South Georgia where there's like dirt roads.
Yeah,
It's kind of no street lights. It's like if you're driving there at night, you're driving through the middle of the woods in the dark. And then my dad's side of the family is from a similar place in North Carolina. And having family from the Carolinas, naturally, I was like born into the hoodoo culture. Whether we want to be honest about that or not, it's so
right.
deeply ingrained in Black culture, especially like Black Southern culture. I was worried about it because there is that stigma about it of like, oh, it's like voodoo or it's like magic or it's dark. But I wanted to demystify that piece of it a little bit because it's so ingrained in our culture in a positive way in most ways because it's been used as like a tool for resilience and resistance and giving us like resources and faith and something to lean on during times of like great oppression. And I think even now we still lean on it in ways that we're not even super realizing that we're doing it. And so hoodoo, and you can hop in as well with any like knowledge
Yeah,
that you have, but hoodoo is often seen as an umbrella term, but when I was doing a little bit of like more like scholarly research on it this week, I was hearing that hoodoo, root work, and conjure are not necessarily all the same thing, but they're all like intertwined with each other.
yeah,
So root work is more so, and of course there's overlap, so it's not going to be like they all fit into neat little boxes, but root work is more so like healing and herbs and medicine and how can I go be with nature and how can
yeah.
I find like the right flower. And I know you do a little herbalism as well, the like the yoni seeds and things that you create. But having a relationship with plants, I would say, is like the major basis of root work and what herbs work with what. And then conjure is more so when you get into the magical aspect of it because that is the communication with spirits and
Yeah.
ancestors. That's more so like when you think about casting work or whatever that looks like. And then hoodoo itself is more so the superstitions and the cultural practices that we have within our community.
I like how you separated it like that because I
Hmm.
myself have kind of thought about it under one umbrella instead of
Hmm.
like the intricacies in all of it, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. Thank you for separating that for
Hmm.
me. Myself, I'm realizing for myself, I've always had this type of knowledge. I can't pinpoint
Hmm.
it anywhere, so I
Yeah.
do dabble into all three.
Hmm.
Hoodoo and the magic side of things and conjuring. So no, I don't have anything to add. You're just clicking things in my mind. Like, okay, wait, it
Yeah.
was raised by my Dominican side. I don't know anything
Hmm.
about my African American side as far as like where this knowledge is really coming from. The only thing I really know about my Black American side is
Hmm.
really they were in Chicago
Hmm.
and Memphis, and that's pretty much
Hmm.
it. So, the knowledge is coming from
Yeah.
somewhere,
They're
but
likely from like Mississippi then. I know that there's like
yeah,
a big migration from the Mississippi area up into, in some
yeah,
parts of Alabama, I'll say up into like the Midwest.
yeah.
But if you go, I don't know if you did Ancestry, but I know they
I
have
did
like
ancestry. Yeah,
your regions that your
yeah,
family origin is from. And I know for mine it's just like, oh, the coastal Carolina region, which
yeah.
is like Gullah Geechee region of like Hoodoo. I saw like there's like different Hoodoo like regions or whatever, but I have like Gullah Geechee ancestry on both sides of my family. And like you were saying, it is like some of it, I think like the cultural aspect is maybe bigger than we think because it is like our family is not like casting spells or anything like that
Right.
every day, but they're teaching you certain things that are like traditions. You believe them because it's like your family heritage. And so I don't know if I want to be so deep about like specific, things about our families and what they do culturally and traditionally, because I do think some things we should gatekeep and we shouldn't
Yes.
like share everything with the world. But one thing I will say, because I know this is like a popular superstition in Hoodoo, is like putting your purse on the floor. And I'll never, ever put my purse on the floor. And I think that's something I learned from a very young age. And it's just like I see
Yes.
people put their purse on the floor and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, it just makes me feel something visceral in my body to see that. So,
This conversation is really intriguing me to look further into, really, is the correlation between Hoodooism, but Santeria and all the practices in the Caribbeans, because a lot
mm-hmm,
of these traditions, right, that
mm-hmm,
I grew up on, such as, the superstition of don't put your
mm-hmm,
purse on the floor. Like that's something my
mm-hmm,
grandmother, my Dominican grandmother taught me. It's way deeper than we think and it's more intertwined than
mm-hmm,
we think. I definitely, yeah, I want to look further into that because like, girl, how
mm-hmm.
did you know that? Like where are you getting that
Yeah.
information from?
That's something I want to look into further in my own research. Is like of course, like enslaved Africans were taken from all over Africa and shipped to the U.S. So there is like a melding of like we may not be from the same place, but we have to build this community. And so there are some things that are from my specific culture and some things from your specific culture, and we're gonna
Right.
like blend those things together. So I don't necessarily know all of like the what's the word I'm thinking of, like the starting place, like the places of origin
Yeah.
for some of these traditions,
Yeah.
which I would love to know a little bit more about. Hoodoo is definitely like that melting pot of traditional African
Yeah.
spiritualities and beliefs that they're coming over to the US, and it's like, okay, we have to adapt. So I don't know you, we don't speak the same language, but we're going to make something work out
We're
because we
gonna
have to.
communicate through
Yeah.
our traditions, through our practices.
Yeah, and through our like our shared identity as
Yeah.
African people. And I think that's true whether or not we ended up in America or if we ended up in the Caribbean. I think we adapted to the area, but we still kept our culture in that way.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was through like hiding it and mixing it into like the Christian practice, which is a big piece of like hoodoo. We're also often using the Bible because that's what we had at the time. That's the spiritual
Right.
system that was okay. And it's like you can have Sundays off when you're enslaved to go to church. And we might not be able to practice out in the open our traditional religious belief, but this is what we have. And so, like, let's make it work. And I think that is also a big piece of hoodoo is like, we might not have everything, it might not look pretty, but we're just going to make whatever we have work.
I
Yeah.
feel I feel like that's definitely where things were intertwined and
Hmm.
then later on got lost in translation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also say like that practice is also like the root of the Black church because the way that the Black church, especially like the Black Southern church looks and the way that we practice and the way that we praise is so different from like what you think of like a traditional white church looking like.
Right.
So the
Right.
singing, like the soul in our music, I know some of that
Yeah.
is like getting lost now as we're getting more into like pop kind of gospel, which is not
Yeah.
yeah, not my thing. I grew up listening to like Shirley Caesar and like Southern gospel. And so
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of soul in the Black church and it
Yes.
stems from some of those practices.
I agree.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Beloved or like read the book by Toni Morrison?
No.
Mm. It's a there's a character in the book, Baby Suggs, and she's like the like the town preacher. And there's
Mhm.
like a scene in the movie I'm thinking of, but it's in the book as well of her like preaching, but it's out like the church is like out in nature. So they're just like in a field and she's
Mhm.
not necessarily like preaching the Bible, but she's just preaching about connection and love and freedom. And it's like they're just like in a field of flowers, just like dancing and singing and crying and shouting. So like the
Yeah.
ring shout and how we adapted that from like our traditional African spiritual practices to like melding that into the Black church.
Mm. Well, I'll have to
Yeah.
watch it now. Or read the book.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it is kind of scary because I that's another aspect of like hoodoo. I think Toni Morrison and I know Zora Hurston implement a lot of Black spirituality into their writing. Beloved is about like a haint. It's basically where she I don't know if it's like a spoiler because this book is older than me, I believe, but she's trying to flee enslavement and she ends up killing one of her children because she's like, I'd rather my children be the main character. She's like, I'd rather my children be dead than enslaved, basically. And so
Wow.
she does gain freedom. But then once she's free, that child that she killed starts to like haunt the house basically and comes back as a spirit. And then it's like, you know, causing destruction
Yeah.
because she's like in a state of unrest is like the basis of the movie. It's very, I'll say, I'll say disturbing, but I think it's like a honest part of what our culture might have looked like back then. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So going into Granny Midwives, which is the focus of our conversation today,
Yes.
and the way that Granny Midwives tie into hoodoo is that often the Granny Midwives, and I often all the time the Granny
Yeah.
Midwives, were the conjurers, the doctors, the spiritual mothers, the healers, the leaders in the community, and what they were practicing was essentially hoodoo, and that's why I say it's demonized, but it's like a big part of our culture because they were our doctors, our nurses, like our medicine
Yeah.
workers. Like they're helping birthing people give birth, but they're also the person that like if I'm sick and I need medicine, they're gonna put something together for me to feel better because like the enslavers are not really
Mhm.
worried about my spiritual health and well-being or my
Right.
physical health and well-being but beyond the point of like, can I work? And so like if you need something, you go and see the Granny Midwives and they
Yeah.
are the leaders and they have like a high position within the community.
With this class that I'm taking, we're learning so much about the Granny Midwives, and
Hmm.
I think my whole cohort has been extremely disturbed by some of the information
Hmm.
we're learning. Of course, I
Hmm.
had some knowledge to what was really going on back in the day, but to hear how they were mistreated, just for taking care of their community, but
Hmm.
also and then facing blame on them for maternal death
Hmm.
and infant deaths, just because they
Hmm.
wanted to take over, because they couldn't control what was happening in the homes. The granny midwives, they took over in the communities because they weren't able to get taught by the white folks. They weren't able
Hmm.
to gain, the professional knowledge for that. So they, started conjuring up their own things, doing things at
Hmm.
home. And from what I was reading, back in the 50s is when everything started switching. The OBs, male OBs at that, started to take over and put
Hmm.
blame on all the midwives.
Back to like the function that the Granny Midwives served in the community. When we're talking about like enslaved Africans being brought over to the US here to do, manual labor, the Granny Midwives are the people who held the traditions from how we traditionally birth in the African continent, wherever they were in the country, whatever country they were in the continent. There were no doctors for enslaved Africans, and it's like you do the work until you die, basically. The Granny Midwives came in because they had that ancestral knowledge and they had, the relationship with plant medicine and even some of those like conjuring, like spiritual practices. They became useful to enslavers because it's like, oh, they go to this Granny Midwife, they feel better, they can produce longer. Or women are giving birth, the babies are surviving, they survive, and that's like a product for us. So it's like, oh, we want to leave them alone. We can have like a bigger workforce for ourselves. it was a high position within the community, and they had a lot of autonomy because it's like they're doing something that's beneficial for me. And not only were they helping like the enslaved Africans, they were also sometimes helping like the birthing mistresses as well with their giving birth and like lactation support and things like that. They had that autonomy, and then it's like once they had an apprenticeship model, so it's like once you start to age out as a woman of manual labor, you can come and you can be a granny midwife, and we're going to teach you the tradition. And it's like not a formal teaching, but it's like I'm working with you and I'm learning as you go. And then as you age out, I pass that tradition on. And then also in my reading, I was reading that a lot of mixed race women who were the children of enslavers who didn't want to have children would also become midwives because whatever personal reasons that they have, because it didn't go in too deep into their personal narratives. But what I was reading was that they didn't want to have children. They were also like using herbs to like self-induce like the loss of children. And
Right.
so it's like I want to maintain my autonomy. And so I know that the best way to do that is to get into midwifery. And that gives me the space to kind of do my own thing and also be useful enough that I'm not going to be, separated from my family. And there was like a belief also that for a while that mixed race women were infertile, is what they believe. They're like, oh, they can't get pregnant, but it's really like they're intentionally not becoming
Right.
pregnant because they know that this is like a position in society that they can take that gives them a little bit more autonomy.
I wonder how many um, slave owners
Hmm.
had mistress babies be born,
Hmm.
and how that could have been hidden very easily with the granny midwives. Just like,
Yeah, I think there's so much research that we can still be doing about like having these stories. And there's this book, it's called Working the Roots. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a big white book. But a researcher did go out and talk to some older Black Americans about their history and like their relationship with like herbs and roots. And I believe there's a section in there on like Granny Midwives, but she talked to them and like gathered their stories and went to like some of the rural places that are like a little bit more inaccessible to like go and like gather the stories from elders before they pass. And that's a really good one. That's something that we should be continuing to do,
yeah,
pass those stories on. There's so many things that I think we don't know, especially about women, because I feel like our voices get so lost in history. And history is often written from like a male perspective, a white male perspective.
right.
And so for them, in that example, it's like, oh, they can't have babies. But from the woman's perspective, it's like, I don't want to have kids. I don't want
Right.
to have my children be enslaved. And so I'm gonna take this herb and I'm not gonna be pregnant anymore. And I'm gonna be able to be as free as I can be within the situation that I'm
Right.
in. Reading about granny midwives, they knew, and I'm looking at my notes, they knew the right herbs to take, teas to make, foods to serve for mothers postpartum. They also use some rituals and superstitions as well. And some of the superstitions that I'm reading, and you can jump in if you know some as well, but I wish I had written down the country that it came from, but there was a belief in one African country. I want to say it's like Benin, but it's like putting something sharp underneath the bed wards off like physical pain. And so it's like a
Oh,
superstition
wow.
of like put a knife under bed or like put scissors under the bed, and that is gonna ward off the evil spirits. Yeah, it's like in West African cosmology, sharp objects were also thought to ward off evil spirits. And so midwives would place sharp objects under a birthing person's bed in order to decrease their pain in labor. And so
Wow.
it's like we can never measure whether or not that's working or not. But for them,
Right.
it's like I have to put this thing underneath the bed because that's going to make labor a little bit easier. I also saw like they're using herbs to like rub on the mother's stomach. One thing I did see, and maybe you can talk about this because I know um this is something that you do with like placenta encapsulation, but
Mhm.
they had superstitions also around how to handle a placenta after birth. And so they were doing it in their traditional way without like the modern science knowledge behind it. But now researchers believe that the way that they were handling the placenta with care was also preventing infection and hemorrhaging after birth for the pregnant women. And so like the midwives don't know this, but they know it. And it's like this is their ancestral intuition that's telling them to do it this way, but actually it was right.
I
Hmm.
I myself have not heard any of the superstition or like
Hmm.
how they were caring for the placentas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something we're going to get into. That's very interesting to know
I'll
that,
send
though.
you the
As far
specific
as,
article.
yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
obviously there are some herbs that we work with to give mom, when she's in labor. There's a lot of homeopathic
Mm-hmm.
remedies currently. Clary sage is one of them to help soothe the womb, when
Mm-hmm.
mom is in labor. But as far as the actual placenta, like I don't know. I would love to know. I'm going to read up on it now, what they were doing back in the
Mm-hmm.
day and how that correlates with how I myself am doing my encapsulations. In traditional midwifery or home births and stuff like that, the main thing is allowing mom to pass the placenta naturally and not do any pulling, tugging, or mom has to pass the placenta within a specific time frame just to make sure that everything is intact and doesn't cause any infections or fevers or anything like that. So I feel like that is maybe one of them as far as a tradition that was passed down is allowing mom and baby to get all the nutrients from the placenta before it being passed
Mm-hmm.
out naturally.
And I'm looking at the article to see what it says, but
Yeah, I'm gonna
uh
look into that because this conversation and
mm-hmm.
just everything that I'm learning, I know I'm going to tweak things as I go.
Mm-hmm.
And this conversation is definitely just encouraging me to do more research and doing things more traditionally. Like I'm already learning the traditional way, but there's still deeper things that I'm not learning in school that I'm not going to. So,
Mm-hmm.
as far as like spiritual practices and incorporating a lot of hoodoo um into my work. So yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
And I would imagine that it is like program specific to where it's like they're going to teach you the medical aspects. So it's like, yeah, you know the history, but you're not gonna know like the spiritual aspects until you're in community with other midwives and it, or
Exactly.
as you're doing the work. But they did mention like some specific herbs. I was able to pull that up, but they talk about like just caring for the placenta. Looking at the placenta is what they talked about, like because if they see abnormalities in the placenta, they can know that there might be something
Yeah.
that's going on. Yeah,
That's the main
making sure.
thing.
Yeah, making sure that pieces hadn't been left in the womb. And then the ritual of like how they care for the placenta after and like burying it in a specific way or like burning it because of like the spiritual belief that something happening to the placenta could cause harm to the mom or the baby or to the mom's
Yeah.
fertility. Hmm.
Okay, so then yeah, that is definitely how we do things today.
Hmm. Hmm.
I haven't experienced or done a lotus birth
Hmm.
yet, which
Yeah.
is keeping the placenta like in a bowl and the umbilical cord is still attached to the baby. So you preserve it with salt and some
Hmm.
herbs and allow to the umbilical
Yeah,
cord
they
to
talk
just
about that
attach
too.
naturally. I
Yeah.
haven't done that yet. I would love to. Um, but I did mostly with my encapsulations, it's just the encapsulation. This week, I'm actually
Hmm.
making a tincture. It's my
Oh,
first time making an
nice.
actual tincture with the placenta instead of
Like the
the,
pills.
yeah, instead of the
Mm-hmm.
pills. So yeah, that sounds about right. Then that's exactly what we do is make sure that the placenta is in good health. That's my job.
Hmm.
Make sure
Yeah.
the midwife, obviously, after birth and after the placenta is passed or birthed,
Hmm.
they're looking at the placenta to make sure it's safe for me to take home, and then I'm doing my own,
Hmm.
making sure that it's healthy enough for mom to consume it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it is the
Yeah.
same, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm actually reading out because I like was skimming. But they said that they use salt, but it was considered conjure salt because it's preserving it in the physical, but also in the spiritual, it's transforming it as
Okay.
well. And thinking about like we were talking about hoodoo being like syncretized with other spiritual practices, salt was used in Catholicism for baptism. So it's like they
Okay.
drew a little bit on um that practice of like baptizing you in salt to promote, I guess, like the spiritual transformation of the placenta and the mom and the baby as well. They talked about how salt was used as like charms of protection
I
in
was
in
just gonna say
Africa.
maybe to
Yeah.
ward off. protect
Hmm.
the baby and the mom. And
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I'm thinking about like even like sprinkling salt at your door is supposed to keep
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
evil spirits and like people that are not meant to be in your home out of your home, that kind of
Right.
thing. And then they do talk a little bit about like the teas that they gave mom. So during birth, the sage roots, mullein, pine, and
Mhm.
then peppermint tea to help to induce labor. Is that a way that you've worked with herbs?
Not the peppermint. That's a new one I've
Mm-hmm.
heard. The other
Mm-hmm.
herbs, yes. The main one that we use and that I mostly use is red raspberry leaf. So it helps with
Mm-hmm.
blood circulation to the uterus. That is literally it's we all should be drinking it every day,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
But it definitely helps mom prepare the blood flow through her uterus during her
Mm-hmm.
contractions and during labor and delivery. So there
Yeah.
are there's like a midwife brew. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a combination of things, including red raspberry leaf to help mom.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's teas is a good one that I use. And that is something, with more knowledge. And as I continue on to
Mm-hmm.
my student midwifery journey, is
Mm-hmm.
curating different teas for the different trimesters and labor and delivery
Yeah.
and then postpartum as well. So I'm really interested in um, learning more about that.
One thing also that I saw in the midwife like the readings that I was doing was
Hmm.
about how they lean into their spirituality as far as like keeping time during birth, because of course they don't have clocks, you don't have like the period tracker or anything like that. But they used to be able to track someone's pregnancy by the moon phases. And so they would know like you got pregnant during this moon cycle, and so you should be giving birth around this moon cycle. And so that was something that was interesting to me because they say like midwives are like the timekeepers within the community. So they know
Hmm.
when a mom is going to um, give birth. And also they use I think it's like the rose of like Jericho, like the flowers that you put in the water and they
Yes.
unfold.
Yeah.
They would use that to keep time during the birth because they know how long it takes for the flower to unfold. So it helps them to know how much time is passing during
Yeah.
labor. Hmm.
That's amazing. Yeah, what I read as well is that a lot of the granny midwives, obviously
Hmm.
there was no ultrasounds and
Yeah.
stethoscopes and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
they would use their hands and their intuitive knowledge to just
Hmm.
to feel the baby, see how far along mom is, how much the baby would weigh, you
Hmm.
know, guesstimates with their intuition. And I thought that was amazing. They would like literally, there's a video of a granny midwife and she's like feeling the baby with her eyes closed and she's trying to,
Hmm.
to see how far along mom is. But yeah.
Hmm. And the thing with all these practices is that they were doing a really good job
Yeah,
also. Yeah,
they
it's
knew
like
what they
they
were
knew.
doing.
Yeah, and even I can't remember the specifics, but I know even like C-sections was something that was happening in Africa and successfully, and they were giving the moms like wine to like sedate them in a way, but then they're like performing the C-sections. There's no infection, the baby's healing well, the mom is healing well. We have been doing this for years and
Right,
years successfully, and we don't have like the traditional medical knowledge. And this is even before medicine was like medicine. This is like at the time where a lot of men again are like bumbling around, figuring it out, experimenting. It was done without commodifying birth like we were talking about earlier. Earlier, it's like with few interventions and allowing a woman's body to just birth the way that it naturally births and
right,
often like in a position that is comfortable to birth in and not like
right,
laying on their back. And I'm even thinking about, and this is like a slight tangent, but like twilight birth that was happening for a little while, where it's like, we're going to sedate you and then you're going to give birth under sedation and then you like wake up and the baby is born. So like really thinking about it, I think before we started recording when you were talking about it as
yeah,
like granny midwives are like barbaric in their practices and they're treating it like it's natural when really it's like a medical intervention that you needed
yeah.
to take was like the initial knowledge that they had about birth.
It's so crazy to me. They've never been
Hmm.
okay with our internal knowledge and
Hmm.
how powerful. women have been, Black women have been in their internal knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because something that's working so perfectly, what like
Mm-hmm.
why are you coming here with your interventions?
Yeah.
That's it's disheartening. These conversations are important, they're necessary, but they do infuriate me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm so passionate about it, and it really is bothersome that since the beginning of time they have not trusted us and we have just been doing
I
okay.
w- I would say beyond not trusting us, I think they gaslight us because I'm thinking about,
Gaslight, yeah.
yeah, the quote that we were talking about, like Granny Midwives are dirty, and like I'll
Hmm.
let you read the full quote, but it's like they're doing well, and then once it's like we can't profit off of this anymore, now they're not doing well, and they're wrong, and we're more advanced, and they're barbaric, and so you need to do things our way.
Our way, yeah.
Um, yeah, and so transitioning into that, it's like after the Civil War, it's like we have all these free Black people. We don't care if more Black people are being born because we're not profiting off of their labor in the
Right.
same ways that we were. And so Granny Midwives were still the healers in the community, but then it's like they're healing Black people that we don't care about because it's another mouth to feed, is what they were kind of feeling like after war. Even
Right.
when Black moms were pregnant or like bringing their children to refugee camps during the war, they're like, we don't want them here. Even Abraham Lincoln, when he freed them, he was like, can we ship them all back to Africa, is what he said. He was like, we don't want Black people on the American continent because we don't have any use for them. And I forgot who it was who said, like, no, we don't have the capacity to ship every Black American or African back to Africa. So we have to figure out what to do with them. And I,
Right.
and I think for a while it's just like it to the capacity that we can, we just don't engage with them and we let them do their own thing. And so it was like that's kind of what was happening for a little while with Granny Midwives in the community because the white doctors would never go to the community to help them.
Right.
And so it's like we're fending for ourselves until, like you were saying, I think like the 1950s.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let me look it up here. Yeah, it was the 1950s. And they started regulating midwifery. And they were just making it harder, for Black midwives to gain the knowledge of the
Hmm.
profession that they were now trying to regulate.
Yeah.
And it was because they couldn't control the Black communities and the Black midwives. So yeah, they left them
Hmm.
alone for a little bit, but once they realized, wait a minute, they don't need us.
They're flourishing without us.
Oh my God, I need to come up here and make this a whole profession
And
now
take
and
their
take over
money
and
also
take
because
their
they
money.
were
Yeah,
so expensive compared to what a Black midwife would charge. Because often there's like bartering
right.
of like, I'll give you a chicken and you'll birth my baby. And it's like that
Yeah,
community
yeah,
system. And they're like, oh, we're missing out on money because you need to pay
right.
me to give birth to that baby. And you need to come to a hospital. Like you can't do that
Yeah,
at home. Yeah.
yeah. So it was before the 1950s, and then there was more, once it became regulated, there was way more hospital births
Yeah.
after that.
Hospital births
So,
and worse birth outcomes after the hospital births.
right,
Yeah. So with that, I know one piece about it was like you can't practice traditional midwifery or like lay midwifery is what they were saying. You have to go to nursing school, and a lot of these were older Black women who had been enslaved and they couldn't read. So it's like, how am I going to go from not being able to read to like being in a nursing school and studying a curriculum?
right.
Were you able to watch the documentary All My Babies that talked about it? I wish I could remember her name, but it was the one of the last Black midwives in Georgia. It's a documentary about her, and she had delivered hundreds of babies
Hmm.
successfully. She actually did complete the training. Her name was Mary Cooley. I think she did
Yes.
complete the training, but after that, it's like it's no longer an ancestral practice because we can't just like pass our it just pissed me off because I saw it has a 40% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, the documentary about Black midwives. But yeah, so it's like now it's no longer a tradition to where we can pass this on and like it's a community effort. It's like, medicalized,
Yeah.
like
Do it this way.
institutionalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to share the exact quote that we were talking about from the
Okay,
white doctor?
yes. So I don't know what this doctor's name is. I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
he was a white man. but there was a doctor in Alabama that called Black midwives. He said their fingers are full of dirt, brains full of arrogance and superstition.
Mm-hmm.
And that quote right there, obviously, he's talking about the traditional practices
Mm-hmm.
um, that they were sharing with their community and having successful births with all the hoodoo practices. Saying they're dirty, that's really crazy.
I had the article where they mentioned his name, but I couldn't find it either. But I do
Yeah,
remember reading
find
that
it.
quote. And yeah, it's like their heads full of superstition, their fingers are full of dirt because they're
Yeah.
using the herbs that they have and the wisdom that they have. And I know one of the things they talk about is like we're going to use like we don't have like medical lubricant. We're going to use lard because that's what we have, and we're going to rub her stomach with that, and we're going to make it work. And it's like they're using what they have, the earth, and it's like, oh, that's dirty. You need to sterilize. I know that was like a really big thing,
Yes. The sterilization.
sterilization.
Yeah.
And also the arrogance was like Granny midwives were very respected in the community, and that was something that was threatening because it's like, who do these African women think that they are to be like leaders in the community? And that was a really big thing. And it's like we don't want them to think that they know more than we know or that
Right.
they are like bigger than the program basically.
Right.
So I'm wondering now, of course, like we were talking about birth um post this. I think it's like the Shepherd Towner Act is the act. Do you remember the exact name of the act? It's the
No.
Shepherd something act. That was, I think it's the Shepherd Towner Act, which is like they wanted to protect maternal health. Yeah, the Shepherd Towner Maternity and Infancy Act of 1921 was the act that yeah, that eliminated Black midwives in the South. So they were created state funded public health programs at that time. So like we're going to invest in maternal health because we have very bad birth outcomes during this time. And so this was including white women, but I would imagine at that time that there wasn't a lot of medical records on Black birth to even measure like whether or not there were poor birth outcomes among Black women at that time. But
Right.
there were poor birth outcomes for white women. And so it's like we need to figure out what to do about our maternal health crisis at that time. And
Mm.
so that's what led to like, oh, we can't have granny midwives doing like their slave stuff basically and their witch magic and all that and
Right.
dealing with children and all that stuff. And so, but you and I both know that that didn't improve the birth outcomes for Black women. And so
It
I'm wondering
did.
if you can share a little bit about your knowledge about what the birth landscape looks like now for Black women.
As far as,
Maternal health disparities.
yeah, so I don't know the exact statistics currently, but I do
It's,
know. Go
I
ahead.
was
Do you
gonna
know
say
this?
it's yeah, that they're four times more likely to have poor birth outcomes,
Mhm.
3 to 4 times more likely to have poor birth outcomes related to their white counterparts. So still a very high average. And then as you're talking, I can look up the recent statistics that I had because I'm
Yeah.
always looking at it and it's constantly changing. I think recently that birth outcomes did improve in the US for other populations, but just not for Black women.
So I think a major part of that obviously is the control that was taken over for midwives and just the whole Western medicine aspect of it.
Hmm.
And they're now being less Black traditional midwives. I did look
Hmm.
up the percentile for Black midwives currently for
Hmm.
today as of August 2025,
Hmm.
and Black midwives only take over 7.3%
Mm.
overall for certified midwives, and there's about 14,000 certified midwives in the US.
Mm.
And I think how everything was orchestrated, there was a point where they took over and there were less Black midwives, but there was a point I think in the 70s, where white women wanted to take control over their maternal health again. So then
Mm-hmm.
there was an uprise again in midwifery, but now they were white women.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't really change anything for the Black community as far as, we still didn't have access to the traditional midwives. They were still forced to, still mistreated and still forced to have hospital births, from
I
medical
think
providers. Hmm.
I was gonna say, I think also we internalize some of that racism, and some of us are resistant to holistic birthing practices. And I think like now I've seen it a lot more, especially like with my clients who are like connecting with doulas. And I know for me, I always try to connect clients with doulas, but I think it is like um, there was a stigma about like home birthing or non-traditional to like the, medical structure of
Right.
birth, like doing things like that. I think I don't know if you've heard it like within your community or like when you were like having your daughter, like, oh, it's like white people stuff, like midwives or like
Yes.
hippie stuff. And so it's like we're disconnected from the fact that that was our culture
To
and our
begin with.
cultural practice. Yeah. And it's like now we've been so like disconnected and stigmatized and we internalize it. And it's like kind of like a self-brainwashing of like, oh, we don't do that. We go to the
Hmm.
hospital where it's clean, but it's really like that's our stuff.
It was our tradition to begin with, and
Hmm.
that lack of knowledge is why we are here today, and it's so judged, like you said, like
Hmm.
it's white people stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for the most part, that everyone is talking about it a little bit more, and
Hmm.
we are slowly taking back over the community and the tradition that was ours to begin with. I do think there is tons of correlation, obviously, with how Black mothers are being treated
Hmm.
by these providers, because there's not
Yeah.
enough of us. There's not enough
Because
of us
I
that are their providers.
I think it's like the pendulum is swinging a little bit back to like we don't want to deal with it. And I hear this from doulas, and you can share your perspective as a doula, but it's like um, the medical system is failing Black women. I know I had to pull up my dissertation for the statistics, but it's like so like dialing back a little bit because I'm thinking about what got me into maternal health and the research
Right.
aspect was taking a public health course, and in it I learned about the maternal health disparities. And so with that, it's like Black women have worse birth outcomes than all other populations, and education doesn't mitigate that. So it's the opposite. So the more educated that Black women are, the worse their birth outcomes are. So white
Mm-mm.
women with the high school education have better birth outcomes than Black women with a college education. And then like the higher the degree level, the worse the outcomes for them. And what I learned was that it's because of when you have a higher education, you also have a greater proximity to racism. And so it's like I am Black and like navigating these white spaces, and then that leads to the weathering of like the weight of racism is like changing us biologically because we're so stressed. With that, it's like Black women are experiencing like medical racism and prejudice. And I always talk about how there was a study, I think, with like Harvard doctors where they had to talk about whether or not it's true that Black people feel less pain, and they
Right.
believed it. They're like, oh, they do feel less pain, so they need less like pain medicine during any like routine procedure, but even like
Hmm.
during birth. And they often think that we are medication seeking or we're exaggerating what we're feeling. And so we do get mistreated in those medical spaces, and that's a part of it. And so going back to my original point, it's like we don't want to deal with it. And so we're going to put it on doulas. And I think that, yes, doula care is important, but doulas can't fix everything. And I think a
Right.
lot of weight has been put on like, well, let's just let the doulas deal with it. And so I'm wondering what your perspective is on that as a doula, because I know there is like a push for like federal funding. A lot of states have like pilot programs for Medicaid to cover doula services. And again, I think that that is amazing and beneficial. And I love the work that doulas do. And I always recommend clients to doulas. But then it's like, well, if the doulas don't figure it out, then it's not our fault because we gave you the funding to fix it. And I wonder how you feel about that.
As far as Florida, I have heard they are trying to push that, but
Hmm.
the payout is it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
It's almost insulting.
Oh, oh yeah.
It's
We can
it's
talk
almost
about insurance
insulting. So
reimbursements all day.
yeah, I get that. And it is spreading awareness on, the adequacy that's needed for moms.
Hmm.
But
I think it's
it's,
also women's work, quote unquote, is very demeaned, and the fields that we're in are
it
like
is
important, but it's like they don't want to pay you for the work that you do. And doulas do a lot
the
of work.
the pushback I've gotten, especially with my younger clients, my teen mom clients, is really disheartening. A lot of providers won't even look me in the eye, when talking. So there's still mistreatment. There's lack of respect when it comes to doulas and medical providers because they see things their
Hmm.
way, and
Oh
they kind of see you
yeah.
as like you're in the way of what they're
Hmm.
trying to accomplish. They have
Yeah.
quotas to meet and they have
Hmm.
bonuses that they want to get. So,
Hmm.
they're kind of looking at you
Like an annoyance,
like an
and you're
annoyance,
advocating for
like when you're
the
advocating
patient.
and
Yeah.
you're trying to make sure that your client is, you know, knows what the doctor is saying. My job is
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that they're understanding and translate it in a way that they're going to understand and allow them to
Hmm.
make their own decisions. Like that's the whole point of advocacy.
Hmm.
So I personally have been through nothing I can't handle, nothing too crazy, but
Hmm.
I have had some pushback and I've had great experiences as well. And the further I get into my career, my practice, I am seeing different outcomes and,
Hmm.
um, more open energy towards what I do specifically. So it's
Hmm.
nice, but I have experienced some pushback and it is stressful. It is a lot of stress on me because I want to make sure my client gets the outcome that,
Hmm.
rightfully so, as much as that we can control,
Hmm.
and to not have any major interventions that's going to bring an uproar to their labor and birth experience. So yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know
I
if I
can
answered your
also
question at all. I
see.
don't even remember your question.
Yeah, but I was just asking you about like what the birth landscape is looking like. And I think
Yeah,
that's a great example. And I wonder if like if you're a doula that's not very confident or sure, even that pushback from the doctor can impact the work that you do. And I can see how that could be
yeah,
a very stressful
it
situation.
is. It has been. I'm glad I've had more good experiences than not
Hmm.
because and I mainly only serve hospital births for my younger clients, my
Hmm.
minorities, or my teen moms,
Hmm.
and that's where it's needed the most. So
Yeah.
I'm okay sucking it up. I'm okay putting that in my back pocket and just
Hmm.
and moving along and continuing to show up for these hospital births because that's really where
Hmm.
it's needed. Obviously, in a birthing center and or a home birth, it's more of a team. It's more of it's a birth and spiritual community. That's literally
Hmm.
we're all in the same page. So hospital
Yeah.
birth is where it's really needed, but where you're respected the
Hmm.
least.
There,
Um,
I was thinking about birth from a spiritual aspect. I don't know this creator's name. I'll get them for you, but I of course have not given birth, but I have heard it can be like a very spiritual experience, especially
mhm.
if it's unmedicated, because you are in that kind of like,
Yeah,
you know, dazed kind of state. I don't know how to
yeah,
describe it, but I
yeah,
like if you've taken like laughing gas or something before, you're in
yeah,
that like liminal space, I'll say. Um, what was the point I was going to make? Oh, there's a creator that I follow that talks about birth can also be like a pleasurable
yeah.
experience, like tantric
Orgasmic.
birth. Yeah, like if
Yeah,
you actually are able to tap into your body.
yeah,
And then she talks about how it's like because women's bodies are so like demonized under like patriarchy and so like constricted, it's like they take us away from that, the way that our body can just naturally be. And I'm
Yes.
thinking about like, when it went from we're naturally giving birth at our homes with the midwife to like now we're sedated and giving birth under sedation and like it's just like a
And on
very
our
clinical
backs.
process. Yeah. And it's like, I'm wondering like your perspective on that, like as a doula, but also as like a spiritual person about like that containment of women's bodies.
Obviously, that pisses me off, for lack of better words,
Hmm.
honestly, because of course, I've seen a wide range now of different. I've
Hmm.
lost count how many babies I've seen. It's a good amount. I'm really
Hmm.
grateful. So,
Yeah.
and every single one has been so different.
Hmm.
And um, recently, last week, I had a birth, and that was probably the most spiritually inclined birth that I experienced as a doula,
Hmm.
and it was so beautiful. So I'll
Hmm.
tell you a quick story. It was me, the midwife, the birth assistant, her mom, and her aunt. And dad is not in the picture. That's okay. It was a room full of powerful women. Her little brother actually was upstairs, and her little cousin,
Hmm.
two males. And but it was so powerful just having all of this feminine energy in the room. And she labored most of it in her mother's bathtub, like the jacuzzi type tub,
Hmm.
because her mom's room was downstairs. So we did everything downstairs. So there was a point where she was like, "I knew you were going to be here, Papa." And she was talking about her grandfather.
Hmm.
And she's just
Oh.
crying. Ooh, I'm getting chills just thinking about it and talking about
Mm.
it. So she's crying, and I instantly felt it. And
Hmm.
I'm looking at her mom and her aunt, and they're getting emotional, and they're telling the midwife we just lost him last year, and she was just like
Hmm.
crying. She's just crying, and
Oh,
stuff.
that makes me sad.
She's like, I knew you were gonna be here, Papa. Like, I knew you were gonna be here. She's like, I feel
Hmm.
you. And I was holding back my tears, so like, when your lip is quivering, like you're holding back your
Hmm.
tears, you're like, I literally had to step away and boohoo cry because I didn't see him in there, but I can feel his presence. And I could
Hmm.
feel that he was there just supporting her. And it
Yeah.
was truly the most spiritual experience. It was so beautiful. So then she was
Hmm.
like, I don't know that what the time is, but my baby's gonna be here like in an hour. And she was like, don't tell me
Hmm.
the time. Sure enough, her baby was there within the hour. It was like
Hmm.
3 something in the morning, she said that, and sure enough, baby was born at 4:45. So for me, like, it was such an eye-opening experience, although I have experienced and witnessed different aspects and maybe like lesser versions of a highly spiritual experience.
Hmm.
That one was top tier. I was just like,
Yeah.
the energy, all of us women, and him being the only masculine presence,
Hmm.
and him being there in spirit and not in physical form was truly amazing. So like, it's bothersome to me when
Hmm.
women aren't able to have those type of experiences. So when we talk about having a spiritual birth and or very pleasurable orgasmic birth, I
Hmm.
think I think that starts way before the mom gets pregnant. I feel like a lot of that comes with healing and taking accountability and like
Hmm.
really digging deep into trauma to be
Like
able
the
to
shadow
release
work. Yeah.
enough to let go within the birthing experience.
Hmm.
Something that I do as a doula is I'm doing shadow work with them. I give them homework, I give them journal prompts, and I'm going to tweak and do more with that so that I can bring that into my midwifery practices, because I think it's
Hmm.
so important. Giving birth brings up trauma.
Hmm.
It is a psychological event.
I,
So we
oh.
say it's 80% mental and only 20%. Your body's going to do it
Hmm.
regardless, but
Hmm.
you have the mental capacity and power to literally stop labor. And I tell all of my clients this, like, we have to work on some things you might have been ignoring, you don't really want to
Hmm.
talk about. It's a very spiritual experience, whether you want to look at it like that or not. And so that's what I tell
Hmm.
my clients, like, I'm here to help you work through some things so that you're able to let go more when you're giving birth, because you
Mhm.
can literally, if for example, if you've had sexual trauma, that's
Mhm.
something that's your it's still in your nervous system, something you've been ignoring for
Mhm.
years, it's going to come back in labor. You
Yeah.
might start to you're going to get triggered in some way, just in, obviously it's such a uncontrolled situation that
Mhm.
they feel out of control, so they're starting to tense their body.
Mhm.
They're remembering things they don't want to remember. It's such a trance type of experience. I think in order to have these orgasmic, pleasurable spiritual experiences in labor, the
Mhm.
shadow work, the hard work needs to be done way before that. And at the
Yeah.
very least during pregnancy. Like you
Mhm.
got 9 months to figure it out, boo, okay? So that we're not sitting in your labor unpacking it then.
Mhm.
And not every woman is going to want to talk about it with me, and so I
Mhm.
encourage therapy or doing other things to help release that from their body and from their mental
Mhm.
state, so that they can have a better experience.
Yeah, like as you're talking, it triggered something in my mind. Like as a yoga instructor, I'm thinking about like how we talk about there is like that energy that's stored in your hips. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
imagining like in labor, a lot of those places that we ignore and we're not letting energy flow are like getting very activated and how that can be
On a
overwhelming.
thousand, like I can
Yeah.
imagine how uncomfortable that would feel if
Hmm.
I'm
You
like,
not
you're
aware of
being
your hips.
forced now. Yeah,
Yeah.
now you're being forced
Mm-hmm.
to look at it, acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
it, and feel
Feel it
it,
in your
and then move
body.
through
Yeah.
it, because you
And you
have
can't
to,
get out of it.
and you
Yeah.
can't get out of it. So like it's
Hmm.
such a psychological, more so than not. So that's something I
Hmm.
emphasize. Emphasize, like we have to work through some. If you don't have no trauma, great, but 9 times out of 10 there is something that you need
Hmm.
to work through that can stop your labor later on. So
Yeah.
like, let me help you, help me help you, so we're not
Hmm.
sitting there for 40 hours.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about how like a lot of women are not in tune with their like sacral feminine energy in
Right.
general. And I'm thinking about how that's often suppressed, like we were talking about as well. And there's like I'm also thinking about someone else on TikTok, of course, because I think we're all chronically on there, but
Right.
how like women don't like sway their hips when they walk. And it's like
Yeah.
because patriarchy tells us, especially Black women from when we were a child, like, oh, you're being grown, when it's like
Yeah.
our hips are just
Yeah.
naturally swaying when we walk, and it's like we're not in touch with our feminine body or like feminine pleasure in that way.
Hmm.
And so it's like even sex, like with a partner, it's we can sometimes not even be in tune with what our bodies want and need. It could
Present.
be like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're like doing
Hmm.
it as like, I don't want to say like a service, but like we're doing it like with them for their pleasure, and we don't even know
Yeah.
what we like, and we don't feel comfortable talking about what feels good and what doesn't feel good for us. And so it's like, just like closed down. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm even thinking about, because I'm really big on like meditation. If I can find the specific meditation I was doing, I'll send it to you. But it's like a meditation, like envisioning yourself like in your womb. And what does that look like to you? Like
Oh
what's
wow.
like the
Yeah.
color? What do you see? What's the scene? And I remember I did it and I was like, oh, it's kind of like dark in here. I did it a while ago, it's a couple years ago, but it's like, oh, I never really even like thought about like
Yeah,
what's
that's
going on with my
interesting.
energy down there. Yeah, but it's like, oh, and then like the meditation is like no matter what it is, it's like let's like make it brighter and more active. But it's like
Yeah.
we're not really connecting with our bodies in that way. And it's like um I think it's like seen as like an afterthought. Like it's not important to access those parts of ourselves often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's especially, bringing back the correlation with Western medicine, right? And these hospital
Hmm.
births, it's almost like a task. Like, just get
Hmm.
in, get out. You don't have time. Like, we're rushing you. You don't have time to like
Hmm.
be in your body and feel the
Yeah.
experience, to be able to make these correlations that we're making. Like, it is a
Hmm.
spiritual experience. And so that tied in to a woman who's not really in tune with her body or her femininity. Yeah, it's like
Hmm.
And then it just builds up over time. Now mom has
Hmm.
5 kids
Yeah.
and she don't really know herself.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it all ties in together. So
And again, I think it's like maybe we're doing a lot more reclaiming now of like our feminine energy, our feminine body. But I
yeah.
do think it's like seen sometimes as like frivolous or like really woo woo. And
Yeah.
it's like why does this matter? How does this benefit me in some ways? But I definitely want to like go back to like the story that you were telling about the mom that you were assisting with her birth and like her spiritual experience. And I love to hear things like that because I think so often, even with like my clients, is like birth doesn't always look like that. And
Yeah.
I think we don't really talk about like the transformative stories related to birth. We talk about the pain, and that's important. But I think also like joy and connection with our bodies in a
Mhm.
positive way is equally important to highlight. And so yeah, I don't hear a lot of like stories about like, oh, this is like the spiritual space of birth or like the positive
Yeah.
experience or connecting with my ancestors during birth. It's
Yeah.
more so like, oh, this is really traumatic or like it's very rushed. And I think also sometimes doctors make birth feel like it's an emergency. It's like sometimes we can wait. I think one thing is like eating during birth. I know that's like a big controversy, and it's like let the mom eat is what a lot of birth workers
Yeah.
say, but it's like
She
no, you
needs
can't.
energy.
And it's like, oh, I've been laboring for, 20 hours, and it's
And
like
I'm
I'm hungry,
hungry.
I'm
Yeah.
tired, and they're like,
Yeah.
no, well, you need to go into a C-section.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know there is a lot of that where it's like we're in a system that is like already disconnecting us from our bodies. And then in the actual act of birth is like a further disconnect because
Yeah.
like what you're feeling, like your somatic experiences, even like ignoring the sensation of hunger, it's like that's not important because I need to meet my bottom line.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's just a rush experience. I agree with that. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot more work that needs to be done, but I am happy that we're,
Hmm.
in this direction, and working on making a change and putting
Hmm.
putting a bright light to what hospital births really are
Hmm.
and how they are making us so disconnected from our experience, from our womb, from
Hmm.
how beautiful it really could be. So I myself I'm excited to have more experiences like this last birth from last week. I'm so happy for my client. She got the birth that she really expected. It
Hmm.
doesn't always go that way.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously it helps to have a community that actually cares.
Hmm.
It was a Black midwife. And
Hmm.
actually, side note, she was the first Black midwife to graduate from the school that I'm going to currently. She
Oh,
graduated in 2013.
damn. That's
Right. That-
I think it's like great to hear those stories, but then you think about how recent it is, it's like
yeah, I need to look up how long it's been open. Okay, founded in 2003
okay. So I guess
in
it's not that
Gainesville.
long, but geez, I think like within those 10 years, I would imagine that some Black women or Black people would be interested in it. But do you know if there are Black men who are midwives? Just thought about
I
that.
don't think so.
Hmm.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I just thought about that. I've never heard of a Black man being a midwife. I think when I think about midwife, I only think about women. I don't know if I've ever heard of a male midwife. That's something for me to research.
So I do know of a male midwife, but he's white.
Mm,
I don't know how long he's been doing it, but he's
yeah.
the only male midwife and I actually want him to be my preceptor. But he is the only one I don't, I'm definitely gonna look that up now.
Hmm. I think also it's like the BIPOC and queer experience, there is like that overlap in identity in a lot of ways. So that might be why you resonate more with him than like if there are just like white providers there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing I would like to talk about a little bit
Hmm.
is the disparities with student midwives and what
Hmm.
what we experience. So actually I'm reading more about it. I think I think it's because they changed the name a while back.
Hmm.
But I lied. It was founded in 1920.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they changed the name in 2003 is what you're saying, but they
No,
were
I think before that, because when I was searching it up, it was another midwifery school. So that's why I was
mm,
like, wait, I'm confused. But I'm on the school website right now.
okay.
1920.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is another school here in Orlando that
Mm,
is founded by Jenny Joseph. She is a Black midwife.
hmm.
Love her. Can't wait to meet her one day. I'm like fangirling over her. I'm like, I need to meet
Yeah.
her. But unfortunately, they don't take enrollments. They take enrollments every end of each cohort, which is every 3 years.
Hmm.
And I just couldn't wait. Like I missed
Yeah, that
I
makes
missed
sense.
last year, I think it was. Yeah, I missed last year's and I was just like, I'm not gonna wait. I can't wait till
Yeah.
2027. So I decided to go to this school for the School of Traditional Midwifery. It's in Gainesville,
Hmm.
and I heard lots of stories. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
the home birth midwife I work for right now, her name is Nicole.
Hmm.
Nicole Arelis, actually.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, her middle name is Nicole. She goes by Nicole, but it's Arelis
Hmm.
Nicole. Anyways, it was funny how we met, but that was going to be inevitable. Like I knew her from she's a mutual, but I met her
Hmm.
through my doula mentorship program. I
Hmm.
was shadowing a birth as a doula. She was shadowing as a student midwife. And then we
Hmm.
met. And then later on found out that we have a mutual. So regardless, we were gonna
Yeah.
meet.
The
Anyways,
synchronicities.
it's so I'm working for her right now. This is the school that she went to, and she's a spicy little 4 foot 11 Latina. Okay. And she hated her experience. And she was the
Hmm.
first one who told me about the racism
Oh,
in
yeah.
midwifery. And I was like, really? I did hear that I overheard some things of the
Mm-hmm.
midwives and how, just drama in the midwifery world. And me being super
Hmm.
excited and new into this part of my birth work, I
Hmm.
was confused. I'm like, I'm not hearing this right. There's no way that
Yeah.
there's drama in midwifery. Like,
Hmm.
what's going on here, right? So as I was uh learning more and hearing more stories is when it was really disheartening to hear like how much racism and drama and like drama
Hmm.
between midwives and all this going
Yeah.
on still.
Hmm.
So I've talked to at least three other Black or Latina midwife student midwives and or certified currently, um, that have gone to the same school and have experienced racism. And
Hmm.
it's either the preceptors who are older white midwives who are passing down almost like this hazing, you
Mm.
know. It just seems like the mistreatment is just traditional at this point instead of someone taking over and being like, let's do things differently, or
Hmm.
and they're overwhelmed, overworked, and they're just mistreating their students. And so that's not
Mm.
something I'm excited about. I'm very new in it, so I haven't experienced anything thus far. And I kind of went um, into this semester with like, I'm going to take everyone's experience and just put them in my back pocket. But
Hmm.
I'm going to hope that's not my experience. And hopefully things have changed since and I have a way different experience. But I do know
Hmm.
someone who's in their second or third year, and I'm in my first year, and
Hmm.
so we're not that far off. And she's not making me feel any better about it not
Hmm.
happening. It's like it's still
Yeah.
something that's happening today, right now, as we speak.
Mm.
Student midwives are being mistreated, and it's mostly the black or brown
Mm.
student midwives that are just we. There aren't a lot of black preceptors
Hmm.
to gain the knowledge from, so we have to go to
Yeah.
the white midwives, And
Which I think is
unfortunate,
like that indicative of like, like a snowball effect of what happened with the
ex
black midwives, yeah, to driving them out of the field in general. And sorry to cut you off. I did have a
yeah,
quick question though,
yeah.
because I was talking about this. I was talking about it with my mom because I feel like my mom does a great job of like history keeping in my family. And so when I was thinking about like spiritual traditions and midwifery practices, I was talking to her about it. But I was wondering, and I think maybe you can answer this, who do they credit as like the founder of midwifery?
So I don't, I'd have to look up the name.
I was wondering that because I wondered, was it black midwives that were they like acknowledged, or is it like this white midwife that's like, oh, this is like founding the foremother of like midwifery or something like that?
So from what I remember learning in the class, which there's so much material that we still haven't gone over, so
Mm-hmm.
but thus far what I've learned is it wasn't until the white midwives came and
Mm-hmm.
started reclaiming, right, home
Mm-hmm.
births. Um, and when they were doing their own digging is when they were
Rediscovering black midwives.
rediscovering black midwives, going into the history,
Mm-hmm.
and basically giving them their flowers.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I understanding, it wasn't until then.
Which is unfortunate because it was not that big of a break in history between black midwives ending and then like white
It
midwives
wasn't.
founding. Yeah, it's like if we forgot what happened 5 years ago. Yeah.
20 years is nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
like everyone forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from my understanding, it wasn't until then. Um,
Mm. Yeah, I question that because I know like even now we're just starting to give Black creators, Black spiritualists, like their flowers when it comes to stuff that they founded that
mhm.
people have taken credit for over the years. Yeah.
So there was a white midwife. I'm sure maybe you've heard of her, maybe not. Ina May,
Mm-hmm.
Ina May Gaskin.
Mm-hmm.
They gave her the title in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah,
the
that's what I
mother
was
of authentic
remembering.
midwifery. And so
Yeah.
I
And
really
there's like a
appreciate,
book too.
yeah, I have her book.
Yeah.
So I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate my instructor for this class because she was like, since then she's not the mother of midwifery.
Yeah.
She just like rediscovered it.
Co-opted it.
That's it. It's what it
Mm-hmm.
was. And so since then they have been debunking these titles that they've
Mm-hmm.
have given
I
these white women.
I also wonder about like oral traditions though, because it's like when she was becoming a midwife, how did she learn about midwifery? Like somebody told her that. And I guess like the people that told the stories were like omitting the like impact that Black women had, but that's very interesting because I'm just imagining if there's any critical thinking that there would be some gaps in that storytelling that would question like, is this for real? So maybe that's
Right,
just me. Yeah.
right,
Because like, oh, where did you learn this from? Grandma knew this.
right.
Where did she learn it from? It's like, yeah, so.
Yeah.
mm.
hmm
I'm also interested in what led you to midwifery after being a doula.
I'm going to take it back to when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
um, where this passion and this knowledge was pretty much instilled into my bones. I, throughout my motherhood, my own mothering experience, I kept changing what I wanted to do exactly. I thought I wanted to be an ultrasound tech. I thought I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be a neonatal nurse. I thought I wanted to be all these things. So as I was just getting older and learning more things, then my plan was to do massage therapy first and then become a doula so I can incorporate those things together.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I reached that point, I was just like, no, I want to be the one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be her. I need to be delivering the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just made sense. There was nothing else I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to stop at being a doula, but I didn't I didn't know until then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be the one who was actually delivering the babies because I saw how needed Black and brown women are um, within the community, how much we're needed, how much we aren't advocated for enough, all the
Hmm.
disparities and the mistreatment and the racism. And so I just decided I really want to make a change and I really want to incorporate my passion and my love for, you know, birth work to my clients and just make a change in general in the community.
And one thing I think about being a doula and being a midwife is like something I've been thinking about recently in my work as like a therapist and as a professor is like I feel like those practices are a lot more intuitive and you have
Hmm.
a lot more room to embody those spiritual aspects within the
Yeah.
process of birth work. And I'm like, um, sometimes I think like my field is so rigid, and I understand why, because there do need to be safeguards when you're doing mental health work.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about like now, how can I incorporate some more of that like free flowingness into the work that I do?
Yeah.
And like doing stuff like this is like a way that I feel like I can incorporate it. Because I can talk about like some of the woo-woo stuff as well as like
Yeah.
the research stuff. But I do miss that like more holistic,
Mm.
um, more decolonized, I'll say, aspect of the
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
That would be beautiful to witness the incorporation of both,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, because there's a stigma, you know, and I think, again, that's on the Western medicine side.
Hmm.
And to the Black community, that's kind of seen as white people stuff, you know? So,
Yeah.
like, I think incorporating all of that knowledge, they'll be more open to it. And
Hmm.
yeah, it'd be way more beneficial. I feel like Black people would just need to trust. We need to
Yeah.
trust more, you know? So,
Yeah, I've been following a lot more Indigenous therapists and inclusive therapists that are doing a more decolonized therapy model because we are taught therapy in a more white-centered way that can
mhm.
feel inauthentic to clients. And so
Yeah,
I've been thinking more about like how do I navigate that where it's like I'm showing up authentic to myself and my history. Um, and the history of Black and brown people, of queer people, and also like navigating like the ethics around it.
yeah,
But I think there has been more discussion about like what that looks like in a way that is supportive to clients. Like one example is I think a lot of therapists think about this as like self-disclosing is a big thing we learn about in school. And it's kind of like, don't tell your client anything about you. But
yeah,
then it's
yeah,
like clients ask you things like, um, are you married? Do you have kids? Like, when is your birthday? A lot of my clients are into astrology, and so we talk
yeah.
about zodiac signs. So they're like, "What's your sign?" Or like, one of my clients was like, "I hate Libra men," and I'm like, "Do you know about astrology?" I laughed, and she's like, "Are you a Libra?" And then we talk about that. But like in school, you learn to say like, "Well, why do you want to know if I'm a Libra? Why do you want to know if I have children? I can't disclose," like that kind of thing. But it's like you can talk to your client like they're
Yeah,
people. And so that's just something that I've just been thinking about work, what work looks like for me moving forward and how can I show up more authentically, but
right.
also with like care in the work that I do. But I say all that to say like sometimes I have that regret of like, why am I in such a stuffy profession when I'm not
Yeah,
like that in my personal life?
yeah,
So I do think there's like a part of me that likes the structure and the rules because it's like the analytical researcher brain of me, but then there's also that part of me that's like, I do want to connect with my ancestors and I do want
yeah,
to like do feminine energy healing and meditate
yeah,
and like go to the woods and like identify plants and stuff. And so what does it look like moving forward, like embodying all those aspects of
yeah.
myself? Yeah.
I definitely could. I definitely think you can intertwine the two
Hmm.
and serve the community in both ways. Like, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
So yeah, so with that, I wanted to ask you as well, like what does it look like? And I know again it's like easier in the fields that you're in, but what does it look like for you to be like a healer, a spiritual person, but also navigate like being in a medical system?
So for me, what I'm realizing with being more active in the birth community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then having that birth last week,
Mm-hmm.
how much I do want to incorporate more of the spiritual aspect and more of my knowledge
Mm-hmm.
into my practice and show how I show up as a midwife in the future and how I show up as a doula as well. I
Mm-hmm.
think for myself, I have kind of suppressed my knowledge a lot. I know there's so much
Mm-hmm.
more I could be sharing and talking about online and like
Mm-hmm.
um I have suppressed long enough what I do know, but that is not my plan moving forward. My plan is to incorporate all of that because I want my clients like last week to find me, to know that it's a
Mm-hmm.
safe space to acknowledge spirituality. I think because I will be following the traditional midwifery side of things,
Mm-hmm.
that it would be a lot easier to for me to incorporate those things. Um, I did think about it, thought about it a long time
Mm-hmm.
ago as far as becoming a certified nurse midwife, which you have to go
Mm-hmm.
through all of nursing, but most of
Mm-hmm.
them stay in the hospital, and that's not something I
Yeah.
wanted to do. So I definitely prefer the traditional route. And I do think it's easier for me to show up in a more authentic way with my knowledge and to help my clients see the how everything correlates, with the
Mm-hmm.
experience. Really, my goal is to just show up with all of my knowledge and allow those clients that are like-minded to find me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'll only do that with sharing what I know and making my clients feel comfortable in the practice that I'm going to carry, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how like the Granny Midwives were doing it. So I think just with showing up like that authentically will help.
Another thing I was wondering is like, how do you think that we can reclaim and destigmatize some of these traditions?
The main thing would be acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
If we keep hiding from our own knowledge and not
Mm-hmm.
sharing, and I think the main thing would be fully acknowledging and keeping it in present day in our own practices.
Mm-hmm. I think also conversations like this about like
Yeah.
um spirituality, especially traditional Black spirituality
Mm-hmm.
is something that we already practice to some degree in our
Yeah.
lives, and that it's not this big scary thing. And I'm wondering how you see yourself providing some of that education to your community a little bit more.
I definitely plan on having a more on what is the term I'm trying to think of? Just an overall online presence
Mm-hmm.
about the things that I want to share, the things that I know, the things that I have
Mm-hmm.
intentionally been suppressing. I'm like, do I want to be online? Do I not want to be online? Do I
Oh,
do
it's
this? Do I do
hard.
that? It's so hard. Like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
online, but I know that
There
it's,
are people that are in need of your services and your knowledge, and it's like this is how we do pass on that knowledge and
yes.
tradition. And it's hard because I'm very introverted too, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to talk to anybody, and I don't want people to know stuff about me.
Yeah.
Like I hold everything very tight to my chest, and
Yeah.
so it's like how can I navigate being authentic but also like maintaining my individuality.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love D'Angelo, so I was watching his documentary last night, but
Yeah.
he was talking about that too, about like how he didn't like to be like super famous.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, now people think I'm a sex symbol. People are like obsessed with me and enamored with me, and then it becomes like this thing. And he's like on stage, I'm D'Angelo. I'm like this like figure, but then in my
Yeah.
real life, I'm Michael, and I have to like grapple with having both of those identities because I just want to make the music and be my authentic self. But then in order to be out in the world, I have to do it in this way. And so
Yeah.
that's something I feel where it's like I never want to feel like I'm performing or like I have to put on a
Hmm.
persona or I have to like work in a way that is for the benefit of others at the expense
Yeah.
of who I am, like as
Yeah.
a person. So trying to navigate like how can I share, but how can I still be me and have my own stuff? And I think like
Yeah.
this is a really good way because it is more so like research based rather than
Yeah.
like what's going on, like what's
Yeah.
happening in your kitchen with your herbs, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a part of being authentic, right, is showing up.
Hmm.
And so, not that I'm not being authentic, but like
Yeah.
I haven't been sharing the things that I
Hmm.
really know. And so, I want to challenge myself to show up more authentically with that so that, I can start the momentum of like, this is what I know, and hire me to be your midwife in three
Hmm.
years. I
And
want
that's how you find the people that connect with you,
to, yeah,
though. I think like one thing I'm learning as a therapist is like, because I'm in all these therapist groups and
yeah,
people talk about like how difficult it is to find clients. And I think a big piece of it is because like I want to know who you are if I'm sharing my shit with you. Like
yeah,
I want to feel like I can like resonate with you on like a
yeah,
human and I think even sometimes on a spiritual level and I want to feel
yeah,
comfortable
mhm,
and I don't necessarily know if I can do that if there are certain things that I don't know. So it's like, yeah, we have
right,
our private life, but also like, what do you believe?
yeah,
Like, and
yeah,
how do you like view me as a person? Because I think sometimes therapists can create further stigma or
hmm,
marginalization of certain populations and you
yeah,
don't know and it's like such a sensitive space that it's like I want to see who you are. I want to see a little bit of your personality because like if I'm someone like I have like a lot of clients that are like larger than life personalities and I don't care. Like I don't
yeah,
care what y'all do in session honestly, but I can see how it can be uncomfortable if they were with a therapist who's like very stuffy and like prim and proper. Like I have one client that'll come to the office and like kick off her shoes and have a blanket and she'll just like get on the blanket, roll up like a burrito on the couch and it's just like chit-chatting versus like
yeah,
someone where it's like, oh, I have to sit up straight and keep my shoes on and I can't cuss. And like that's a big thing. My clients always ask, can I cuss in session? And I'm like, I don't care what you do,
girl,
honestly.
yeah.
So it's like, yeah, so you have to show who you are.
I think for them, it's like that's how they're showing up. They're being
Hmm.
authentic so that those type of clients can find them, right? So I
Yeah.
do think on
And
our
that's
end, it's
what,
important
yeah,
to
that's what I'm
showcase that so
saying.
they can find us.
Yeah, so
Um,
I think that that's very, it's like people are very vocal about that. And it's like people who are more open can sometimes be like, like we're hiding or we're more introverted. And it's like people are looking for you, is what I'm trying to
yeah,
say. And it's like if you're not
yeah,
out there, how do they know? But you're probably
yeah,
missing out on like a very big population of people who would resonate you and who are in need of the services that you offer.
right.
Hmm.
Exactly. So working on it. This
Hmm.
definitely helps.
Yeah.
I think I just have to work on my like stage fright and like how I want to
Hmm.
present the information.
Yeah.
Is it more informative? Is it more
Mm-hmm.
just laid back? And like, what am I talking about? And like, these are things that I'm literally just asking myself right now. How do I want to present this information online exactly?
Yeah.
So that these people can find me. But that is the goal. That is the plan.
Hmm.
I have to see
Yeah.
if and find me. So
I think for me, like my big thing is like I want to know what I'm talking about. I
yeah,
want to make sure that I'm researching. I don't want to just be like saying anything.
yeah,
I think with that though, I can like acknowledge that I do know a lot of stuff and share what I know and then be honest about what I don't know. And like
yeah,
situations like this where I can collaborate with people who do know and we can just have
yeah,
the exchange and not feel like um I have to know and be and do everything.
yeah.
Because I think community is really important too.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
believe that too.
So, what lessons do you think are still relevant today, that we can embody from like Granny Midwives or just like our ancestors in general, specifically our Black feminine ancestors?
Really, the getting back to the basics of,
Hmm.
you know, the root of the root work, really,
Hmm.
and incorporating that and not shying away and sharing, um, and keeping it present, keeping the traditions present into our
Hmm.
work. I think that's
Yeah.
really important for our community.
We don't have to have everything. We can like make do with what we have. Like you
Mhm.
thinking about like what you're saying about like the root work of like I want to have everything together. I want to have everything in place. I want it to look perfect, but it doesn't have to. It's like start with what you have, like build on
Mhm.
what you already have.
Yeah.
Um, the last question, how can we continue to honor the divine, ancestral, and liberatory power of Black women as healers and life bringers?
That's a good question.
And I want to say life bringers, not even just like pregnancy, but just like
Yeah.
birth in general, transformation, um, birth, rebirth, any of that. So when I think about honoring, I don't necessarily even think it has to be like honoring in the sense of like reverence, which I do think is
Yeah.
important to like share the stories, talk about it,
Yeah.
share it with each other, destigmatize it with each other. But I think honoring it by connecting more with ourselves, connecting to our
Yeah.
intuition, listening to ourselves a little bit more. I think that's one thing that we can do as women is like we don't trust ourselves enough. And because
Yeah.
we're taught like our emotions are like too big or like our intuition is dramatic. I think like just leaning into your own internal wisdom a little bit more is so important and building that self-trust, having that close relationship with yourself. And I think I also just thought about the quote that I was telling you about the other night that I was attending like this women's circle and what she said
Yeah.
about the midwives was that if women can connect to the divine without a church and if they can give birth without a hospital, then they can't be controlled and that makes them dangerous. And I think about that from the systems perspective, the patriarchy perspective of like there's a reason why we're disconnected from our feminine energy and empowerment. Like
Yeah.
and questioning who does that serve
Right.
and why those systems were in place. And then I think rebelling against those systems a little bit more by connecting with yourself more.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
agree. I would definitely agree to that. Maintaining the practice with self, but so my answer to that question would definitely be community.
And I
I
was going to say that
think
too. Yeah.
I I think we are on the right track of building community and safe spaces
Hmm.
for each other.
Hmm.
Um, and only obviously with continuing, then we'll have we'll have a lot more to fall back on. But I think community is important to really honor each other. Like we are really only going to have our best interests for each other.
Hmm.
It's not the other side. So like we have to be able to create those spaces for each other.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm also thinking about like the example of midwives bartering and it's like
yeah,
I'm gonna help you with your labor in exchange for like a chicken or like
yeah,
food or like
yeah,
cleaning and like how can we how can we build community in that decolonized way of like it's not just community for money and not saying like money is not important because we all have to eat, we all have to live. I think
right.
again, like going back to that piece of like the work that we do um should be paid for. We should be able to live
Mhm.
comfortable lives, but I think the root of it being more like community care as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
community care. I agree.
Mm.
And sharing the knowledge, creating spaces for that.
Mhm.
I soon here in a few months, I think probably by next month, we do have a mom that is unable to pay. She was on a sliding
Mhm.
scale, but um, she paid a good amount. But the midwife
Mhm.
was like, you know, I just want you to know, like, if I call you for the
Mhm.
birth, you won't be getting paid because, and she's doing it because this
Mhm.
is for the community, you know, it's sometimes sometimes you'll have to give more than what you receive back and that is okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I said okay because I think it comes with building that community and making
Mhm.
Black mothers feel safe because if
Yeah.
we say no, then she's going to go to the hospital
Mhm.
and who knows how that, you know, how that care will turn,
Yeah.
what that will turn into. So it's like
Mhm.
I think community making sacrifice. I'm going to add making
Yeah.
sacrifice. I think it's
Yeah.
needed.
Mhm.
I think because of the state of the world currently and the
Mm-hmm.
economy, and so I feel like not everyone wants to make sacrifice, but it's needed. It's
Yeah.
needed to continue to honor each other, and then things can build up from there. Like sacrifice when
Mhm.
where it's needed, so that no one is left behind.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big thing I do in my therapy practice. I provide an equity-based sliding scale, and with
Yeah,
my sliding scale, I never ask clients prove your income or anything like that. It's like
yeah,
this is a sliding scale. You tell me what you're able to pay, and
yeah,
my clients, I would say, are honest. Like if they can pay a higher rate than the lowest rate, I think they're honest about that. But I
yeah.
also partner with several birth funds as well. So like the Georgia Fund for Perinatal Mental Health. I should know the name because I've been partnering with them for years at this point, but they're a nonprofit organization that's now a part of Postpartum Support International Georgia that provides birthing people who are within the postpartum period, so pregnant or 1 year postpartum, who are uninsured or on Medicaid. They give them I think it's up to 15 therapy services where they pay the therapist
Wow.
to provide the services to the client. And so, with that, after I am like finished with the vouchers that they get, I've retained a lot of those clients by providing
Yeah,
like a sliding scale if they're not able to afford it, or I accept several other vouchers where I was like, once that voucher is done, let's talk about another voucher that you can use. So
yeah.
I have a lot of clients that are receiving services like that. And then there is another one that I recently partnered with Sister Song. They provide a similar program for Georgia, I think like Kentucky, and I cannot think of the other state. I think it used to just be Georgia, but they recently expanded. But they also do that for doulas and midwives as well. It's I it's in the state of Georgia, but I'm hoping that they can expand. But it's like a similar thing where they have like whatever the rate is for each provider. So therapists,
Yeah,
midwives, doulas, etc. They provide the voucher for that program. But that's like whenever I see a program that I qualify for as a provider to
yeah,
give those services, I always like sign me up for it because I
yeah.
really believe in it. So I think there's like one, two, three, four, five different voucher funds that I accept as a
Oh,
therapist at this
wow.
point. Yeah, for clients to get the
Oh,
services. Yeah. And I think those are so important, especially
they
thinking
are.
about
Yeah,
the community care aspect and
yeah,
yeah, like people being able to um get those services at a rate that they
yeah,
can afford. And then also have an intern at my therapy practice now who does pay what you can therapy. And that was really important to me to be able to have
yeah,
something that's accessible. And so that's something that I would never remove from my therapy
yeah,
model. Even though my full rate, the sliding scale rate is much less than my full rate.
yeah,
But I think if I wasn't able to offer that rate, it would alienate a lot of my client base and a lot of people that are really in need of services would just not get the care that they need. So,
yeah. And
yeah.
I agree, and that kind of defeats making,
Yeah. And I think it
allowing
goes against my,
accessibility.
hmm
Yeah,
it goes against my personal beliefs, I would
yeah,
say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
So yeah, I agree. That's really important. That's so good. I love that for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So what have you been doing recently for spiritual or self-care, spiritual wellness and self-care?
My favorites are baths. I love taking
hmm
baths. I need
Yeah.
to submerge my body.
hmm
Um, I love to go to the beach, although this summer, even though I'm like an hour and 15 minutes away, I haven't made
Yeah.
my way to the beach
Mm.
often at all this summer.
Yeah.
But luckily it's still hot. I could still make it. So,
hmm
um, but water is very important to me. Like, I feel like I'm about
hmm
to lose my shit if I don't take a
Yeah.
bath at least a few times a month.
Yeah.
I used to do it like once a week, and
hmm
I'm trying to get back into that, but
hmm
definitely a few times a month. Uh, and really to honor myself and to honor um, cleansing and just in this whole transition that I'm in.
hmm
I make sure to upkeep my altar. Like I make sure I have candles. Um, and alone time is my main
hmm
main thing. It's how I
Yeah.
really honor myself. Like with all the healing that I've done and the shadow work and all this, it's just made me more
Mm-hmm.
sensitive.
Yeah.
It's made me more sensitive to a lot of things. So I require a lot
Oh,
more
to other people's
solitude.
energy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I require a lot more solitude. So I make sure
Mm-hmm.
to honor that. I make sure to honor how
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling. I make sure to never stay anywhere too long if I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
that, if I'm feeling otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, so really to honor my practices and myself, I make sure to honor how I'm feeling. And if that
Mm-hmm.
means I don't want to talk to anyone for 5 hours and I'm hiding in my
Mm-hmm.
house, like I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Or I'm doing something else, or I'm finding what is going to fulfill me
Mm-hmm.
um in a spiritual aspect. And sometimes that is taking a bath. Sometimes that is skating or going to the park and putting my,
Mm-hmm.
feet in the grass or something. But
Mm-hmm.
on a weekly basis, I'm making sure to do something to honor myself in those ways. I
Mm-hmm.
love drinking tea. That's something I love to do. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I think what's really important is to do things with intention, right? Because Q2, all
Mm-hmm.
these things that I just talked about, without any intention, it does nothing. But I
Yeah.
think having the intention behind it of, uh, I'm going to take a bath to cleanse my energy because
Mm-hmm.
I had a shitty day, or I know something is coming up inside of me and I don't know what it is, or I don't know how to release it. And I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to allow myself to release. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it really isn't the intention behind it. And even drinking tea, like everything that I do for myself, I would say is more like a mini ceremony in the way that I do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like just the intention behind it. So I could do anything as long as
Yeah.
this is the intention of why I'm doing it, and it's to make me feel better, or it's to do this or this, you know. But I am proud of myself for upkeeping my own practices for and honoring how I
Mm-hmm.
feel. Like I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I feel like it's so necessary, especially in the work that we do, like dealing with a lot of people's energy, like to just cleanse yourself off of that energy, whatever that looks like for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to allow us to show up in the way that we need to, because
Hmm.
sometimes, like we were just talking about, we're going to have to give more than what we are given back in whatever
Hmm.
way, whether
Yeah.
it's monetarily or
Hmm.
just energetically. Like sometimes we're not going to get anything in return. So
Hmm.
it's important to take care of ourselves in that aspect. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, so we can keep showing up. So,
I think for me recently, especially since D'Angelo passed, I've been listening to his music a lot.
yeah,
Like this morning, I woke up and I like had the windows open and
yeah,
like the light, and then my apartment is clean, and
yeah.
like burning some incense that I got, and just like listening to his music and
Hmm.
just being present has been really helpful for me the past couple of days. And then also
Hmm.
just keeping like plants and flowers in my home has been really
Yes,
helpful and
yes.
uplifting. And I think for me,
Yeah,
baths is a huge thing. I can take a bath and I
yeah.
can just like sit in the tub for hours,
For
honestly.
hours, it's
And it's
crazy.
like, yeah, it's like I'll get in the tub. It's cold. I just reheat the water
Yeah.
and I'll just sit in there forever. And like you're saying, like I just imagine like everything washing off of me and like the
Hmm.
negative energy just washing down the drain is like a big thing for me. I
Hmm.
think even like drinking water is a way to connect with water. I think we don't
Yeah.
drink enough water, and we can make
Yeah.
that a ritual practice of like I'm just going to speak life and intention into this water that I'm drinking.
Hmm.
And then a big thing for me is meditating.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, like listening to my intuition and tuning into myself a lot more. I
Hmm.
think that's like the biggest like spiritual thing for me is like quiet meditation time. But I think
Yeah.
it's like that's easy for me to get lost with, like fall off on, even though I know it's like I need to just have that quiet
Yeah.
meditation. I use that a lot, the app Insight Timer, and there was like one point where I had 500 days in a row of meditation. And
Wow.
it's like, yeah, because I like I'm very serious about my meditation practice, and then I fall off, and it's like, oh yeah, I feel funky because I'm not doing this thing that I know that I
Yeah.
need to be spiritually well. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to not be rigid with myself about it, but just be
Hmm.
accountable and consistent with myself about maintaining those practices.
Yeah. That's something I need to get back into. It's like,
Hmm.
um, there's other things that I do within my solidarity, like the things that I mentioned, but like intentionally setting some time aside to just meditate. That's something I was pretty
Hmm.
big on too, but I've kind of fallen off.
Well, meditation doesn't always have to be like, sitting legs crossed. I think
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when you're skating, that's meditative
Yeah,
too.
that
But
was
just like,
very,
mm-hmm,
yeah. So yeah, I do practice other ways of meditating, but I want
mm-hmm,
to get back to
like being quiet and listening.
being quiet and listening and like because then it's also going to help me with my studies and help me focus.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Yeah,
with this influx of information, it's a little bit
yeah,
overwhelming. And
yeah.
so um the phones don't help with my, our attention span
Oh
and like all
yeah.
these things. So I feel like getting back to just staying still, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not like washing dishes and being meditative or skating, like really just
Like
sitting still.
like not always seeking that dopamine hit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
Like
we do
I
get like
want
that
to,
instant gratification of like
yes.
scroll thing of
Yeah.
things that I like. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
our brains are like constantly going, but like
Yeah.
having that stillness and making peace with that stillness and not feeling like
Yeah.
I need to be doing 20 different things at once.
Exactly. And I was really
Yeah.
good at it, the stillness
Yeah.
part of it. So I want to get back
Mm.
into the stillness meditation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, and you need to come to Tennessee because we have amazing like hikes here. We definitely need to go on another
I
hike. Yeah.
know.
And like a lot
So,
of rivers here. And that was something I did recently. Went hiking and like
yeah.
sat in a river and it was freezing cold. It was like 40 degrees. It
Oh
was like
my,
rainy out, but I sat in that river and it
yeah.
was like, it was like a cold plunge for me, but it was
Yeah.
just so beautiful to go to like a waterfall and just be able to sit underneath the waterfall.
Yeah.
But there's so many like great hikes here. So
Yeah.
we're the
Definitely.
natural state because of all the beautiful nature in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Definitely gonna come by soon.
And I'm going to tag your information below, but
Mhm.
where can we find you for more information if we want to connect with you for doula services?
Okay, well, you can find me on Instagram. Divinely Bloomed is my business Instagram, and
Hmm.
my personal Instagram is underscore goddess underscore Arelis. It's
Mm-hmm.
Arelis. Uh, TikTok, it doesn't matter. I'm invisible.
Oh
I'm not on there
yeah.
for
No, it's just
real.
for consumption on there. I have my
Yeah.
little,
So
my
those are
TikTok
my
icon, but
yeah.
yeah.
Those are my Instagram handles. I am too have been thinking of sharing my student midwife journey on
Mm.
YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. I love those
So,
videos. I love to watch Day
yeah.
in the Life Girl videos, and I follow some people where it's like they were in medical school and now they're like doctors.
Yeah.
I know there's like a market for people who would be looking for that, especially with someone who
Yeah.
like looks like them and has similar experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I would definitely love to see that. I know other people would love to see that too.
Yeah. So that's, we're talking about um being more authentic and
Hmm.
sharing. Like that is in the plan, not just
Yeah.
sharing on Instagram, but like really showing the journey
Hmm.
and the obstacles that I'm probably going to face with being a mixed girly in this field
Hmm.
and, trying to combat the obstacles that I'm probably going to go through and just the overall experience of becoming a midwife.
Hmm.
Um, because it's there's some beautiful aspects and then there's some not so beautiful aspects. And yeah, I
Yeah.
want to be able to share that journey. So I have been thinking about it and now I'm
Mhm.
like, girl, just do it.
Yeah.
Just
I was already
share.
thinking about it. I'm thinking, does that sound?
I,
I'm not gonna do it.
I'm not
Okay, I
gonna
did
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see your
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. Well, it's great talking with you.
You
I know I
too.
was like, how are we gonna talk for an hour? And then here we are like 2.5 hours in. So this was great.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was lovely.